Let's continue here in Dr. Wack's application laboratory and take a look at the next new product. For me, this is a very, very exciting category because there are still many vehicles that have plastic parts installed on the exterior. And you can briefly say something about the new plastic deep care mat or the product.
Yes, we have completely revised the formulation and have focused on what is important to customers when it comes to plastic deep care. One key aspect is the color refreshment, which must be very good. Secondly, it is the wash resistance. The color refreshment should remain on the surface for an extended period and not be washed off after the first rain drive. And in the outdoor area, an important criterion for deep care products is the beading behavior. The plastic should therefore bead for a long time so that it is clear that the plastic is and remains protected. And all these points have been taken into account in the development of the plastic deep care mat. And now, let's see how that looks in a comparative test.
For the application for the people out there, there is no longer a sponge included like in the original version. Instead, you now recommend the all-in-one cloth.
Exactly, that's how to work with it. Right, we have seen that the all-in-one cloth is perfectly suitable for the application of the product. Therefore, we now recommend it for the application of the Plastic Deep Care Mat 2021.
Perfect. Let's take a closer look at this. Here we go. This is now the test area where we will conduct the test, and you wanted to report something about the standard value up here.
We determine the color refreshing effect with our color measuring device. We do this by measuring a degree of whiteness. The whiteness degree is defined from 100, which is absolute white, down to 0, which is black, and here we have an initial value of 27.91. So we are in the dark area, meaning this is the baseline value. This value is already stored in the device, and we will only determine the color refreshment differences in relation to this baseline value.
Okay, it's also important to know the details here.
We have now prepared our sponges again, each with 3G of the respective deep care product. We will now soak the sponge thoroughly with the product and then wipe the plastic deep care mat onto the surface using the wiping device.
These are exactly the laboratory conditions. We could apply it with the cloth now, but then we would have uneven product quantity, and so on.
I would do the same if I conduct many tests at home. I will also try to use the same applicator and approximately the same amount, as it is really important to make it personally reproducible. It is essential to attempt to treat equal-sized areas with equal amounts of product because, of course, color refreshment depends on the amount of product per area. When I apply a lot, I usually have significantly more color depth than when I apply very thinly. And under standard conditions, we take the same amount and the same surfaces so it can be compared. Now we put the sponges into the wiping device. The same for the other products as well. Now the plastic deep care mat will be applied to the surface over the 5 wiping cycles. And you can see here that the wetting, which may not necessarily be nice, is caused by the sponge. Therefore, we will wipe again with a cloth after 5 minutes of drying time to compensate for any differences and irregularities.
You can already see differences between the individual products, even here on the right side. Julius can film a bit. This one is a little stickier, a bit milkier. Here in the middle, we even have a slight foam formation. And over here, we actually have a 2001. So what I can see from my side during application is that neither is particularly nice to see. Because in general, one can also say that too much product is not good. It prolongs the drying time. So using a lot and even more is not always the right approach.
And in case of doubt, I wipe most of it off again when I do a touch-up.
Exactly right. Passed. Very good.
So, now, we will evenly distribute each product again by wiping with a dry microfiber cloth. For 5 wiping cycles on each plastic deep care mat.
And I also checked in between, and it says exactly the same in your instructions. So, dry the surface, apply evenly to the clean surface, let it sit for about 5 minutes, and then wipe again with the olive microfiber cloth, which we also have included in this case. And once this is done, we'll let it rest for another 5 minutes just to settle a bit. That's what nature does, or in reality, right? Yes. Actually ideal. You do this in the late afternoon, let it cure overnight, and can expect full product performance the next day. Alright, then let's wait for the time and then we'll take a look at the result. Okay, the waiting time is over. First, we'll examine it with the naked eye. And I believe, no matter from which angle you look at this. What do you say? The strongest color refresh is no.
3, followed by no, 1, and with a clear gap, no, 2.
And it is also very important from which angle you view it. It always depends on where the light source is, where the laboratory lamp is in this case, or where, for example, the sun is outside during such tests. That's why I always swing the camera a bit back and forth so that it can be assessed better, but you can see it very, very clearly. And now the measurement values, I think, should also confirm this.
The measuring device emits a beam of light and then measures again on the other side what amount of light comes through. And thus one can not only determine gloss, like other measuring devices, but in this case, also the color refresh through this delta L. The L value, as mentioned, ranges from 0 to 100. And now let's see where the measurements lie. We now have a value of 3.21, and now let's do the area no. 2. You can already see that the value is significantly less negative, which means the color refresh is less pronounced by 2001. And that is exactly what we observe.
Anyone who has already watched the leather video should have seen that it should actually come afterward. We had different size jumps in the values there.
Right, here it's a bit smaller, but still 1.407 here again. This is what we see, that it can also be measured very well. The mean value is now at 4.05. After the color refresh, we want to look at the durability of the color refresh and also the fading behavior.
I will now place the plate in here for this purpose. Then I made a note at the sink to ensure we always have the same water pressure. And then I will basically stop the time. I will demonstrate it once. I then simultaneously press the stopwatch while pulling away. And as soon as the surface is dry, I stop the stopwatch, and then we have the measured time. I will demonstrate this now. Zack. 2, 3 out. T. 478.
We would have waited here forever at no. 3, which is why you eventually stopped at 4.7 hours. It hasn't even expired yet.
No, but 5 seconds is already the maximum.
Everything doesn't make sense either.
Exactly. Now we will measure the untreated area so that we have a comparison of how the plastic plate itself beads or behaves in terms of drainage. 207.
We have now prepared our clean sponges again. We are now filling in 3 ml of a base shampoo. Base shampoo, what does that mean? In the working group of the Industrial Association for Personal Care and Detergents, we established a testing procedure for the evaluation of polishes and waxes. In 2001, among other things, a fixed formulation of a base shampoo has been defined here with which we carry out these washing processes. This essentially simulates a mild car shampoo, and that is our benchmark. With this mixture, we carry out all our washing processes to ensure that we have reproducible results, and the IKW has thus effectively approved this formulation and deemed it suitable.
And then we wipe again with 5 cycles over the treated test areas.
So this is basically supposed to simulate the car wash? Now.
And afterwards, now that we practically have the shampoo on, we will rinse it off again with water. Then we will have an additional water load. Can we include in the video that we take a look at this beforehand to see if we notice any difference after wiping? So, we will check the results now and then again after rinsing.
Okay, the 5 cycles are over, and now I would like to take a look at the surface.
Even if there is a bit of moisture on it now.
That can, of course, be a little break.
Yes, I really wanted to see that, because product 3 was visually gone. But now that the surface is rough again, it retains the moisture from the sponge. The shampoo now adheres much more strongly. It is starting to shine again. But that is actually just the shampoo residue that is now creating the color here. But you can also see here again, already in this area at the top there are differences. However, it becomes clear only when we reduce the moisture now.
First rinse off. And then Luca comes back.
So, let's take it out nicely, without drying it off. Still very, very nice there. Here is the number 1. It has suffered a bit more, as you can see now. And number 3 really still has the last residues. Here, in some places, there is almost nothing left. So, the whole thing has been blown dry again, and now we can already see a noticeable difference. So here, product 2 has also suffered a bit in the wash. Here, product 3 has almost completely removed it. And here, Deep Care Matte still looks very, very nice. But I think the numbers will clarify everything again.
Now again, our measurements on the respective test areas.
So I already see identical values. That means nothing has happened. Yes, nothing at all. And I believe 10, and they are indeed right. The 2 and the 4. That falls under error, under measurement tolerance. That's no longer worth evaluating, is it?
325 has even become slightly darker, if taken very strictly.
Yes, but I would say that I believe this is to some extent measurement tolerance. For the audience members who are watching, this value updates after each measurement and is subject to change. And these are not always the individual measurement points, but rather it is practically always the average, which is updated after each subsequent measurement. And you have set 6 measurements, and after the 6th, it then gives the final value. Now the difficulty here is already to hit the strip correctly.
Are we already at 0?
The numbers convey this accurately. We now have 0.7 for this lane, and as we mentioned before, it appears even paler, which the values clearly indicate.
0.38. Now we will conduct the hydrophobicity test after the first wash and see what has happened. 2001. 137. 134. And 244.
So, I believe we have the results here in black and white. This fits perfectly now. Summarize it for us. These are really impressive results.
Okay, let's first take a look at the color refreshment. We have seen that the optical impression aligns very well with the measurement results. Everything that the eye sees can be measured in exactly the same way. This allows for the identification of subtle differences and provides meaningful results. And we also see that our Deep Care product exhibits very good wash resistance because the color refreshment does not deteriorate negatively. And here, other products show significant losses and therefore slightly lack wash resistance. This means that the color refreshment is significantly deteriorated by contact with water and car shampoos and is lost with hydrophobicity. It is as follows. We have different values here. Now one must know how to interpret these values. The values may be relatively high at the beginning, This is because many of the raw materials we use also contain surfactants as solubilizers. And these surfactants are water-loving. We refer to the hydrophobicity after application as the initial hydrophobicity. In individual cases, it can also be somewhat lower. One can see, for example, here with our product that through rinsing and washing, the surfactants are then washed away and the hydrophobicity increases. Here we have a clear deterioration of hydrophobicity, and here we also have a slight improvement, although it is still at a relatively low level, as we are not able to go below 2.5 seconds. But this is how the supposed differences in drainage time are explained here.
And the value 2.4 was also approximately the value of the untreated area, which we also communicated. So actually, no, 3 is a product that I apply, and I get a total wow effect because I have a very high, precisely very high intense black value, but I have poor hydrophobicity after what felt like the first rain shower, which we actually simulated. The entire application was basically in vain. With no 2, we have the phenomenon that while we lose color intensity, the hydrophobicity remains constant. And of course, we want to have the best of both worlds. This test is so impressive because we consistently have the color refreshment here, and the hydrophobicity, as you just explained, develops to the level we have with candidate no 2. Therefore, one could actually call this an all-in-one solution.
We have placed great importance on ensuring that the product is absolutely balanced and well-rounded. Yes, that we have good results in all important criteria. We may not always be at the forefront in every criterion, but overall, we believe we have the clearly best product, and that has always been our standard.
Very nice. Well, of course, there will be many, many more tests to come, including from Andreas and me on the product. We will try out many, many things. If you have any ideas, feel free to write them in the comments below. Thank you very much for the entire testing process. A big thank you to the team that supported this, and we will see you again next time. Until then.